1. Introduction. Dear visitors, you are most welcome to the Château de Losse. The château and the estate are classified historical sites since 1932. The monument belongs to Middle Age and Renaissance periods. A non-profit family trust is restoring and maintaining the estate that was in a state of utter neglect in the 70s. The garden is one of the few gardens classified by the French Ministry of Culture. The whole entrance fees are given over to the restoration and maintenance of the estate. If you would like to join the guided tour in the apartments, please ask the guide for the next tour. I'll be your guide in English for the gardens. I shall point out where you are and what is commented. When I ring the bell, pause the audio guide until the next page by pushing the central button. When you wish to go back to the previous comment, please push the backward arrow. At any time, you can pause. In the gardens, pay attention to the small green signs. These indicate the way forward. Let's start with the gardens. Please move from the entrance desk to the gatehouse, the large building in front of you. 2. Gatehouse. You are facing the gatehouse, the largest in southwest France. It controls the access to the fortress. We owe the inscription chiseled in the stone to Jean II de Losse, a loyal servant to 5 kings and a great soldier. As a courtier and contemporary of Montaigne, Shakespeare, and Cervantes, he was familiar with 16th century ideas and introduced the Renaissance style to his family seat. L'homme fait ce que peut, la fortune ce que veut. Man does as he may, fate as she wills. In those troubled times, fate was often represented blindfolded, straddling the globe. Now, please turn left and follow the path in the middle as shown by the green signs. Three. Moat. Take the path on the left of the bridge overlooking the dry moat, Les Douves. This gives a general view of the battlements and leads to the river Vézère. The base of the fortified walls, partly carved in the rock, dates back to the 15th century, but the upper part of the curtain wall was renovated in the 1570s, adapting the defenses to the development of firearms. In particular, there are many openings to allow the use of cannons, guns, and muskets, strategically placed so that assailants could be taken under crossfire. Let's have a look at the first tower. Four. Sainte Marguerite Tower. With its fine stonework, the first tower was converted from its original defensive purposes, see the cannon apertures, in the late 16th century, with the opening of a window and a molded cornice. It was also a dovecote. On the façade, one can read the Latin inscription, Quamvis sine pennis non minus alta peto, a proud motto which means, though without wings, I shall rise as high as the birds. Please move along the path to the next tower. Five. Éperon Tower. The Tour de l'Éperon, at the northwest angle of the fortress. The tower retains its stone corbels, though the battlements have since disappeared, and the access walled up. A window was opened up at the Renaissance with a grotesque frame, sculpted and signed by the master contractor Jean Laplace Masson de Gourdon a fait cette œuvre l'an 1570. Here too is a Latin inscription, Heu multa patior ut habeam 1570, which means, it took long to get it done. Please move along the path to the next tower. 6. A tower on the river. The northeast tower next to the river must have been similar to the Tour d'Éperon. It collapsed and was rebuilt about 1840, at the same time as the large building upon the north wall between the two towers. You have reached the river Vézère. From there, you can either pursue your walk into the park. Shady paths lead to the nymph baths, a fountain carved in the cliff. Otherwise, go down the steps to return to the foot of Tour Sainte-Marguerite. The arched bridge which replaced the drawbridge in the 17th century can here be seen from beneath. Enter the tower by the small postern. The spiral staircase leading to the inner garden is very steep, so you may choose to go in the castle by the bridge. To do so, exit the moat, cross the bridge, enter the castle, and turn left. Seven. In the courtyard. Turn left towards the Chemin de Ronde. Walk through the green wisteria and vine bower, which commemorate the chapel, and by the Tour Sainte-Marguerite, onto the ramparts and towards the northwest tower, Tour de l'Éperon. At the end of the rose-lined path, decorated with a crenellated pattern, evoking the battlements of box and nepitas, you will have a good view of the lower court garden, made of plants that withstand the hot, dry summer weather, i.e. lavender, santalin. 8. In the Éperon Tower. Please enter the upper level. The dressing room. Used daytime by the lady of the house, this was a quiet retreat. Here she had privacy to dress, to rest after a bath, or to breastfeed her children. She could entertain relatives and close friends, and organize the domestic activities of the castle. The hangings on the four-posted bed would change according to seasons. In winter, these could be wool or velvet, and in the summer, silk or linen. Since the Renaissance, birdsong was particularly appreciated, and birds in cages were a common feature. Such a bird cage is mentioned in an inventory of Losse dated 1602. Please move to the next room. Nine. The bathroom. During the Renaissance, hygiene became fashionable, and bathing places were introduced in households. These are often found in a tower or close to the kitchens where hot water could be provided easily. The wooden tub is lined with linen, topped with a canopy and curtains and a linen-covered stool placed inside to make ablutions more comfortable. One would bathe naked or draped in an ample shirt. Soap came from Italy, the finest from Venice, and lavender perfumed the water. Fire and the open hearth provided heat. The tub would be emptied with pails. Once you are ready, let's visit the lower floors. A video is shown in the lower part of the tower. (10) The underground. At level -1, the steep staircase leads to the chambers with defensive openings right down to the well 2 levels down at the moat level. Elderly people and young children should refrain from going down. (11) The lower gardens. In the lower garden further than the rill between the barn and the stables, view the river upstream. 12. The river Vézère. Below, on the site of a ruined tower, discover the small knot garden, designed with boxes and roses cascading down to the river Vézère. This was an important means of communication since the Middle Ages, as roads were few and unsafe. In 1685, the building of locks started at Terrasson so that one could sail upon the river in all seasons. The last 5 were built in the 19th century, and the remains of one can be seen just upstream from the castle. Most were swept away by high floods, and the construction of railways made the whole project obsolete. To go out to the terraced gardens, walk back along the Rustica, past the water god. The cypresses evoke the columns which held a covered walkway in the 16th century. Going out of the castle, turn left into the terrace garden. (13) The Charmille. Find a view inside the Charmille. Green hornbeam chambers which harbor lavender, cistus, hibiscus, and spireas, and box borders. The labyrinthine walk leading to the Vézère offers views of the castle, and a small balcony dating back to the 16th century was designed to give a downstream view. (14) Have a rest. There are many garden seats where you can rest. You will find in the Jardin de la Princesse refreshments in the tea room. There is also a picnic area and restrooms. The Jardin de la Princesse is located at the opposite side of the gardens outside the walls. The Princess d'Annam was the daughter of the Emperor d'Annam, exiled by France in the late 19th century. Otherwise, enter the courtyard by crossing the drawbridge again to visit the inner buildings. The upper courtyard. Losse and the surrounding site were listed as National Historical Monuments in 1932. Much renovation work has been undertaken, complete restoration work of the roofs, battlements, and consolidation of the gatehouse. The Château, gatehouse, dates back to the 15th century and is the largest of its type in southwest France. Beneath the porch, 3 vertical openings allowed the drawbridges to be raised and lowered by articulated beams, the smaller for pedestrians and the larger for carriages. The Losse roof is made of flat stones and can easily weigh up to a ton per square meter. On the right-hand side of the gatehouse, you can see the start of the curtain walls. The castle chapel used to be in the space now occupied by the arbor. Beneath the window ledge above the inside of the gatehouse arch, an inscription can be read. Lorsque cuidois achevé, je commençois. 1570, which means, when I thought the end in sight, I was only beginning. The 16th century was the time of Montaigne, contemporary of Jean de Losse, Shakespeare, or Cervantes. It was fashionable to inscribe one's thoughts for posterity. We may suppose that Jean II de Losse refers here to his return to his family seat after a glorious military career for the French crown. At that date, there was great unrest in spite of the Treaty of Saint-Germain. He had as governor of Périgord the difficult mission to appease the strife. 15. History. The Losse family came from Flanders in the 12th century. A sometime French vassal, and having settled on the banks of the river Vézère, maintained a tradition of military service to the French crown. In particular, Jean II de Losse was an important figure and a great soldier. He was born in 1504 and was a page of François Ier, served the sons of Catherine de' Medici, mother of François II, Charles IX, Henry III, and was first commander of the Garde Écossaise, the Scott Guard. He was governor of several strongholds such as Verdun or Marienburg, which he defended against the Holy Roman Emperor, Charles V. In 1573, he became governor of Périgord and Limousin, and having returned to the family seat, decided to modernize the medieval castle. He modified the fortifications dating back to the 15th century to take into account firearms. As an important figure at the French court, Jean de Losse was well acquainted with the new architectural style. The façade of the wall is typical of Renaissance architecture, the canons of which came from Italy, a return to the classical models of Greco-Roman antiquity. For example, the regularly spaced windows framed with a flat geometrical pattern, the cornice or the finely sculpted corbels of the battlements, and the sculpted pattern which evokes fleurs-de-lys. The main door is framed by ribbed pilasters, and the empty space above once held a stone sculpture, now lost. To the right, the Salle Neuve, the new Great Hall, stood in the space between the present gable and the gatehouse. In the 19th century, during an inheritance dispute, the castle was left uncared for. There are traces of a major fire and also plunder. The Salle Vieille remains on the left, dating to the 15th century. It has unusual corner windows. The chapel was also destroyed. It stood by the gatehouse, where you have now the Green Bower. When ready, please enter the open passage towards the terrace. (20) The passage. This passage offers a perspective all the way through the castle from the main gate to the far banks of the river. This was certainly designed as an attractive architectural feature, which was common in Italy at the time. On your right, the terracotta relief is by Artus Quelin, 1609-1668, of whom Rubens himself said that he could equal in sculpture what he, Rubens, was able to produce on canvas. It represents Jupiter with his attributes of thunder, ram, eagle, and globe. The carved stone was found in 1978, buried on the location of the chapel. It is dated 1580, the year Jean de Losse died, and once again, one can see the Losse coat of arms. Let us go to the terrace. (21) The terrace. The terrace was built in the 16th century and offers a beautiful view of the Vézère Valley. It is in a strategic position, dominating the river, and the base of the medieval keep can still be seen jutting out from the edge of the terrace to the south, the right-hand side as one looks out the passage. The Vézère was an important means of communication since the Middle Ages, as roads were few and unsafe. In 1685, the building of locks started at Terrasson so that one could sail upon the river in all seasons. The last 5 were built in the 19th century, and the remains of one can be seen just upstream from the castle. Most were swept away by high floods, and the construction of railways made the whole project obsolete. An estate such as Losse was very much self-sufficient, but supplies could be brought via the river. The stables facing the northern balustrade are the oldest in Aquitaine. Dating back to early 16th century, they housed Jean II de Losse's finest steeds. To the south, there was a mill on the river a little beyond the small 16th century defensive building. Much of the stone used to build Losse was quarried on site, a little north of the castle along the river. When you are ready, please move back to the courtyard towards the gatehouse. If you wish to join the guided tour of the Renaissance Hall, please join the guide in the courtyard in front of the door framed by pilasters. (16) The Hall. You enter the hall with the guide. Please follow the group. The grand staircase is a very classical design and is rare inasmuch as it is a straight staircase in an area where spiral stairs were still built in the 16th century. Climb the grand staircase and enter the coat of arms room. (17) The coat of arms room. The Losse family coat of arms is painted on the wall with the colors of the orders of Saint-Michel and of the Saint-Esprit. Jean de Losse was amongst the very first to be awarded the latter in 1579 when it was created by Henry III. The pisé floor is typical in Périgord. It is made of small stones arranged in a geometrical pattern. It is most unusual on the first floor of a building because of the sheer weight of stone. The ceiling was entirely renovated in 1992 at the same time as major work on the roof. A crane over 30 meters high was used to put the main supporting beams in place. The carved fireplace also bears all the classical architectural motifs of Renaissance, oeuvres and denticules motifs, and stepped ledges are used on the majestuous mantelpiece and the beautiful curved jambage. These arouse the admiration of modern stone carvers. In the 16th century prints were referred to by the carvers, but each mantel was a variant created on the site. They were passed from hand to hand throughout Europe and served as models on which stonemasons would base their own creations. The furniture is 16th and 17th century and has been set as closely as possible to an inventory of the castle dated 1602. Not much has changed here since then. The large Brussels tapestry represents the preparation for the joust, and it was woven by P. van der Bocht. The bottom edge bears his initials, PVB, and the mark BB for Bruxelles-Brabant. The background shows a number of architectural features that can be seen in this room or elsewhere in the house. A small orange tree is also featured. The armor was then mainly used for jousts. Flemish tapestries were renowned, and in the 16th century, the Medici brought Flemish weavers to Florence. The 17th century Florentine tapestry close to the fireplace and representing the return of the courtesan is an example of those workshops. Walnut wood was very popular in France and Italy for cabinet making. Walnut has a very fine, silky grain, as can be seen on the Italian table of about 1590, but also allows fine sculpted detail, as can be seen on the panels of French cupboard, dated 1678. The chest is from northeast Italy, the fine marquetry front, representing an idealized city perspective, a common theme in the decorative arts during the Renaissance. Next to the fireplace, the iron door protects the treasure room, which contained precious objects. Documents were the most important items, being proof of one's rights or entitlements. They had to be preserved, hence the need for a cutaway section in the door for the castle cat to chase the mice. The door is at an angle because of the thickness of the wall, in order to get through and into the room which is behind the fireplace. Please enter the next room. 18. The yellow bedchamber. The tapestry has a rare floral design with tulips in particular. Tulips were extremely fashionable in 17th century Europe, where they had been introduced from Turkey, to such an extent that tulip bulbs were quoted on the Amsterdam stock market. The richly sculpted canopy bed was made from an engraving by Jacques I Androuet du Cerceau, 1515–1585. Several of the Androuet du Cerceau family served the French monarchs as architects and garden designers. The chest, such as the late 16th century example here, was the most common piece of furniture, but was not convenient, as can be seen in the background of many Italian painting of a servant rummaging on her knees. The chest of drawers introduced in the 17th century was easy of access, hence the French term commode. It is here decorated with biblical figures in the round at the angles. The small cabinet with a fine relief of classical figures evoking springs and aquatic plants follows the Mannerist themes of Fontainebleau and is inlaid with marble. These themes can also be seen in the 17th century painting representing the Greek myth of Diana, or Artemis, and Callisto. Metal objects that reflected the light were much in favor at a time when candles or fire were the only source of light, hence the many copper or brass basins, dishes, or chandeliers that can be seen in all the rooms. Please return to ground floor and enter the armory. The door is on the left at the bottom of the staircases. (19) Armory. This part of the house is on the site of the lost Salle Neuve, the Great Hall. According to the 1602 inventory, many weapons were kept here. Defense remained an important factor in the 16th century. As governor, Jean de Losse had an important role in pacifying Périgord during the civil wars in the 1560s and 70s and the religious conflict between Catholics and Protestants. Attacks were a constant worry, even in time of truce, since many mercenaries became bandits, living on pillage and plunder. There are examples of several halberds, perthusons, and piques, as well as 2 small cannons, a bronze coulevrine, and an arquebuse. The handling of weapons is demonstrated in prints by Jacob Jos de Gain, 1565-1629. These were commissioned by the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II of Habsburg, the last great patron of the Renaissance. Another series by Goltzius, 1558-1617, portrays the Imperial Guard in the Mannerist style, wearing padded protective jackets called panserons. The iron chest was made in Nuremberg in the 17th century. It is decorated with savages, i.e., American Indians, and they can be seen wearing feathered headdresses, a recurrent decorative theme after this discovery of the Americas. The real keyhole, however, is secret. Once the chest is open, the intricate locking mechanism is revealed. The model represents the timber roof structure of the castle as it was rebuilt in 1992. Take the corridor and enter the large vaulted room. (20) Salle voûtée. In the salle voûtée, the stone vault bears the stone pisé floor seen in the Salle des Écussons on the first floor. There is an inscription carved on the south vault, Losse 1576, which was inlaid with lead, making it both perfectly legible and indelible. On the east vault, a Latin inscription reads, Cum sudare sanguine et carcere, with sweat, blood, and jail, by which Jean de Losse recalls the sufferings he underwent as prisoner of the Emperor Charles Quint. Next to the fireplace on the left, the fine portrait is by Anton van Moer, better known as Antonio Moro, 1519-1576, a Flemish painter famous at the Spanish court and in the Low Countries. His paintings can be seen at the Prado in Madrid. The first rooms dedicated to dining appear in the 17th century. Before then, the table would be set in the room one chose, and the custom was for guests to be seated along the wall on one side of the table and served from the other. The table is 17th century and made of oak. On the fireplace, the looking-glass framed with Thuja-Bur wood with repoussé brass ornaments origins is southwest France and dates to the reign of Louis XIV. At the opposite side, and specific to Périgord, the cupboard bears the typical diamond point cutaway panels. The tall cupboard is traditionally known as homme debout, or man standing. The tapestry was woven in the Marches area. It represents Godfrey of Bouillon, one of the leaders of the First Crusade. He was the first ruler of the Kingdom of Jerusalem from 1099 to 1100. He is also known as the Baron of the Holy Sepulchre and the Crusader King. He was later included among the 9 worthies, 9 legendary personages who personified the ideals of chivalry established in the Middle Ages, whose lives were deemed a valuable study for aspirants to chivalric status. They were often chosen as subjects of series of 9 tapestries. '20. The Green Drawing Room. In the next room, traces of this green color were found during renovation under dark paint applied at the end of the 19th century. The Mazarin seats are covered in stamped, gilded, and colored leather. This is generally known as Cordoba leather, but in fact, this is a more refined furnishing made in Mechlin in the Low Countries, used in decoration in the 17th century. In 1562, Jean de Losse was given the noble task of supervising the education of the young Prince of Béarn, later to become Henry IV, father of Henriette, wife of King Charles Stuart I. The most precious object here is a portrait of the king made by Guillaume Dupré, 1576-1643, the court sculptor in 1602. A wax carving, it was model for bronze medals bearing the king's effigy and is one of the very few portraits made within his lifetime. The drawings are by Rubens and Van Dyck. We hope the magic of the place strikes you from the garden to the hall. We love and cherish Losse, and we have been happy to share these moments with you. May we add that we would greatly appreciate to read your comments in social media.